All right, we are live if I am not mistaken. I believe so. Cool. What's up, everybody? I am super excited to kick us off. If you have ever listened to me present on anything, I am super data focused. And the reason that I'm super data focused is a number of reasons. One, I've learned I have to be in order to run a sustainable business that I can make informed decisions. I can identify who our strong performers are. I can identify who our weaker performers are. But the part in our industry where we have to do better is because I hear team leads constantly be like, man, my team sucks. I can't get them to do this, and I can't get them to do that, and I can't get them to convert leads, and they won't. And it's like, all right, we need to do a good job of understanding where people struggle and then coach them up so that we can get them past that struggle, whatever that obstacle is. And the challenge has always been, because we've always been a online lead company. And now what we're going to talk about is not just for people who generate leads online, PPC, portal leads. This applies to literally everything, because there's multiple phases in a lead acquisition, to the conversations, to the appointments we're setting, to the meetings that we're having, buyer brokerage agreements and listings being signed or not, deals that were pending, and like there's KPIs that lead to very strong conversion. And our focus and what we learned, because when I started doing this, my daughter, she's going to be 18 next year, which is a total trip. But I had her when I was 16 years old, and I was just a young, dumb kid, and I got into real estate, and I had this mindset of you got to double down and you got to do more. And you keep hearing people talk about that in the down market. And it's like, I did, and I worked, and I do not wear this as a badge of honor, especially today at the mindset that I have now. But I used to work 70, 80 hours a week, just doing more and throwing shit at the wall to finally start getting some results where I could find some success. And ultimately, as this journey progressed, I found out that if we stop just trying to do more, and if we start trying to do better, that we can get better results out of the same exact activities that we're already doing. And I meant that as a solo agent, for like just me and myself. If I focus on best practices for how am I doing on my conversation to appointment set ratio? How am I doing when I set an appointment? What percentage of those people am I getting to show up? Because if you add a calendar invite, I can increase the show up rate by 12%. Like these tiny little best practices, from conversations to setting appointments and how you ask for them and how often you ask. And then once the appointment's set, having a reminder system built in that's going to increase the likelihood of somebody showing up. And then the metric that I love the absolute most, and you guys hear me talk about it if you've attended anything that I've done, from the people that you meet, from the first date that you went on, how many of those first dates had any interest at all in meeting with you again? How many of those people that you met with, how many of them heard what you said, listened to the value that you bring, the market knowledge that you have, your ability to simplify things that might be complex to them? How did you do during that interaction to be able to get their interest in signing what now is force? Like every time I've given any type of presentation like this before, it was always leading to this variable of you should be getting a buyer brokerage agreement, but you weren't. Well, now we're having to. So my favorite part about this is everything I've ever coached has been to lead people to that point. And our very first date and the first impression that we have is how we do that. And it's like when we have access to that data, conversations to appointments set to appointments met to now signed, now we have access to that data. And inherently, you're going to notice really, really quick, there's going to be agents who are just struggling. And the problem is, unless we have any type of data to show us particularly where they are struggling, we don't have the ability to give them the coaching that they need so that they can start getting past these objections, so they can start making better progress. Like if you're on this call, chances are you're probably a team lead, to make sure that the leads that you're giving them, that you're going to receive a return on. Like that for us and for you is by far the most important piece. But team leads can typically be, and hopefully not you, can typically be so surface level to we're like, oh no, man, you suck. You don't got what it takes. And it's like, that's not the case. We've spent years not knowing what we were doing and dumbing our ways through this and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And we've had multiple variations from what I'm going to present on today. And again, the reason that this is so important to me now is, one, ROI is very important to me. I need to understand like the money that we are spending and the business that it's going to bring back. And I also want to make sure, because I do take pride in the people who join me, and I do take it as a personal responsibility that if they do join me, I need to create an environment where they are going to be able to succeed. And if we take somebody under our wing, and the reason I'm so grateful for it is that stupid 16-year-old kid, when I got into real estate, I joined somebody who wasn't an asshole. I joined somebody who was like a dad to me. I called him dad. He was my dad's best friend. The guy took total ownership of my failure and or my success. And he was not willing to let me fail. And I promise you, if you knew that kid back then, should have. 100% without fail, should have. But I had somebody who cared, somebody who coached, somebody who was able to push me through the turbulent times that inevitably come with the real estate business. And I was able to finally start learning what works. And now I feel that same responsibility to people who join me, because they have a limited runway to be able to get onto that runway, get enough speed so that we can finally take flight. And unless they got a sugar mama, sugar daddy, or a trust fund, you only have so much time until somebody has to start making income before they're going to drop out. And the part where it sucks is that you as a team lead are going to invest all this time and this money. And it's like, if you don't know where an agent's struggling, that agent now drops out with a pipeline of $10, $15, $20,000, $30,000 worth of opportunities that didn't get converted. So this is you help them, and you're also helping yourself, because you're creating an environment where you're going to identify very, very quickly where they're struggling, and you're going to be able to give them the coaching that they need so that struggle can be a real short chapter of their book and through this journey. And that's where this whole system has come in. And it's why I wanted to share it with you guys. For the longest time, I've used, and I'll share this here, I have used Sisu, and I was really happy with it because it was the first system that would give us the ability to really track. Did that work? I don't know if you guys can see it.
There it is. It's popping up now.
Awesome. It would be able to show us appointment set, conversations, appointment set, appointments met, signed, pended, and closed. So you got conversations, appointments set, appointments met, signed, pended, closed. And we would know what an agent's average conversation to appointment set ratio should be. And we would know, and I'm just going to use random numbers. Let's just say it was supposed to be an 87%. 87% of these conversations for one particular lead source should be turning in to an appointment being set. And if you had an agent that was not performing to that minimum standard, you would immediately know that we got to go listen to phone calls. But we got to do it one by one, because we got to go listen to the opportunities that were missed. We got to find out what objections were stopping them in their tracks. And the same for appointment set to appointment met. And appointment met to signed. Like, how did you show up on your first date? Did we show our value? Did we articulate it? Did we show them how we're going to give them access to off markets and how we can create them? We're not going into all that, but we would be able to know, are they following the best practices that we have labeled out to improve these, to improve each of these KPIs? And we would have them listed out, all the best practices. Did you do the calendar invite? Did you install the reminder system where they get a text message right before to increase the show up rate? And now we have the ability to finally find the kink in the hose. Because if I knew it was conversations to appointment set, most likely they just weren't asking for the appointment enough. But the problem is what I just said, most likely. And we would have to guess where they were actually struggling. And now that we've been given access to Maverik, and we've been running it now for about 120 days, and the impact that it's having on our business is substantial. Because now we're no longer having to guess. We can find in that pipeline exactly where they're getting beat. And what I mean by that, and we'll go into it here in a second, is that when they call in, I'll know if they're asking for the appointments because I'm going to have transparency into that data. It's going to tell me which agents and which lead sources, which agents are asking for appointments, and if so, how many of the times. And then of the times that they ask, how many of those people accept the invitation. So we're going to run you through some of the transparency that this is going to give. But the other part that I know so many, the pain point that I know so many of you guys struggle with is we all know you get a lead and not all of them are going to convert right away. And when we're listening to these leads, when we're talking to these leads and when we're checking in, why is an agent struggling? The agents who struggle typically have way less touches than an agent who's succeeding. An agent who's struggling maybe is hiding behind text messages and they're not doing enough phone calls, or maybe they're that agent when you listen to the phone call, they don't shut up. You give them the script, they're reading the script, but then they just bulldoze over the conversation because they fill the dead space, because we haven't trained them to get asked the question that you need to ask and then pause and be comfortable with the silence that's needed to give the person the time that they need to respond. And it's like that data is literally what allows us to coach an agent up to be more effective with the opportunities that we're giving. And I would argue you as the team lead, and I look at it this way too, if I allow opportunities to go to an agent who is struggling and I haven't fixed the cause of the struggle, I am taking an opportunity that could have gone to one of my performers that they could have used to put food on their table, to pay their bills, and I'm giving it to somebody who's already proven that they're struggling with that particular area, and I haven't been able to coach them up to ensure that they can progress more of their leads through the funnel. That does matter because one, it matters to your bottom line, and two, it matters for their sustainability on your team and in your business. So there's a bunch of problems at scale that this has fixed for us. And I'm going to share with you a couple of my favorite features. And truthfully, I was laughing because Gabe and I, when we were discussing, there's a lot, and we're trying to discuss which of the features are going to be the most impactful. So I sat down and I said, here's the ones where we immediately saw the impact. And I'll share with you of what some of those are. The very first one is we know role play, and we know agents should be role playing. One of my issues that I've always had, now we've installed this into our onboarding process. So an agent, in order for them to get on, has to run through the role plays that I'm going to show you here in a second. And we have a minimum score that they need to be able to accomplish before we can get them turned on to leads. The problem is having the time to role play enough. And two, is the role play hard enough? Because of what, if you've ever dropped in on one of your role play sessions with your team, we don't practice in reality. Like somebody will give you an objection and you'll listen to the person just immediately roll over with the weakest objection handler that's ever been heard. It's like, hey, that wouldn't have worked in real life. Why are we allowing it to work in role play? So, and the other component to this is, how do you scale the ability to role play to where they can get enough repetitions in so they can enforce and build that muscle so they can be successful at it? Like, you can't. It's not scalable. I don't have enough time. You don't have enough time. My successful agents don't have enough time. And I certainly do not want brand new agents practicing with brand new agents because they are learning a skill set from somebody who doesn't have the damn skill set. So if you're wanting them to be the average of your top 5 performers, they should probably be role playing with your top 5 performers, getting hard objections where they're really having I turned one off, sorry, to where we knew that they're handling it, they're being hit hard enough, and that they're being forced to push back hard enough to do well with them. So I'm going to share, and this is super important now, because now our agents are having completely different objections. The objections that we're getting have always been, yeah, we're putting our plans on hold, or, oh, you know what, we're just looking, or I'm thinking about working with the listing agent. But now it's, why am I going to pay you? Now it's, I'm just going to use the listing agent. Now it's, I'm not going to sign a buyer brokerage agreement. Like we are finally getting, and you guys are going to see this. And the problem is you're not going to see it until it's too late. You're not going to know when you're struggling. Oh, thank you, Gabe. Yeah, you're not going to know which agents are struggling until you look at your P&L at the end of Q4 and you go, holy shit, was my team and were my agents completely unprepared for these new changes that are happening? So I'm going to share with you my screen here. Gabe, give me a thumbs up, or please unmute yourself because I love your input on any of this stuff.
You got it. Yeah, I'll jump in. You're on a roll there, man. I love it. But yeah, this is an exciting one.
All right. Can you see which screen? I have 3 of them pulled
we
up
got
here.
Your call grader.
Cool. So this is the AI role play. So the great news is you can force your agents to go in, and you should, by the way. You can force your agents to go in here and get graded. And I promise you, you will be shocked at the initial grades that your agents are going to get when they're hit with a role play and an objection handling that actually requires skill set to overcome. And my favorite part about this is the AI voice. You are talking to what appears to be a real person. Now, granted, can you tell it's AI? Is there a little bit of a delay? Tiny bit. But the objection is given, and you have to handle it. And if you don't handle it like a real person, it'll hang up on you. And it will allow you to go and ask questions and pivot. And the great news is It's actually, and Gabe, do you by chance have that report card pulled up? Do you, or can you, while I'm talking through this, of what gets delivered after the role play?
I can. Yeah, I'll share it right now.
Cool. So they can call into each of these numbers, and it can be a standard buyer. It can be irate, which honestly, it's not like somebody screaming at them on the other end. It's just a little bit more difficult. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. It's really going to make the agent do a better job of asking better questions.
Will you turn off screen share real quick, Colton? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't let me take it away. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's see.
So what's great, let me open this up. So this is the report card you're just talking about. So once you come back, it'll actually score your card or your call, goes through, talks about what happened. And I believe this was where it'll come through what happened, coaching notes, right? So not only like Cole's talking about, role playing with new agents, but also are they taking the time to actually have constructive, feedback on what needs to be done and all that. So he sends you like what coaching notes happened, pulls the reports. And I think you're going to go deeper to this, but it literally each time your agent calls, and only the agent gets this, but it'll get a post-call grading and report card on how it went,
and
with all the metrics.
The improvement that you guys are going to see too, because if you've ever been part of any of the role plays, like, what'd you think? And they're like, oh, you did great. And it's like, no, you didn't. And the cool thing about AI is it's going to tell you when, no, you didn't. Here's where you needed improvement. Here are the specific examples of what you could have done better. You're talking too much. You're not asking enough questions. You're not telling a good enough story. You're not being able to articulate, like it's going to, and it will even ask you like, why should I use you as my agent? And if you don't have the ability to answer that question in a meaningful way, it'll hang up on you. And so that one particular piece, like this alone, and now the great thing that they've just built into this is during these conversations, you'll be role playing and having the conversation. And I'm like, hey, so what's this I'm hearing? I got to sign a buyer brokerage agreement. What's this I'm hearing? I got to pay the buyer's agent, or buyer's agents are going away. Every single one of my agents is going to have to be certified on these by the end of next week. They just rolled this out, I think, a couple of days ago. They added this component to it. Every single agent, in order for them to continue to get leads, is going to have to pass this objection, because we need to ensure that they have the ability to do it in real life. Because if not, we are taking opportunities that could have fed somebody else's family, and we're allowing them to go to an agent who we didn't give the skill set to progress these leads meaningfully. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one particular part. You guys can get the gist of it. Forces role plays, allows people to go through the repetitions, 24/7 availability. You don't have to schedule a time. Hey, let's meet in the office. When somebody wants to practice, they practice. They can call at 2 o'clock in the morning. They can call at 4. They can call at 6. It doesn't matter. Somebody is available. They can choose the difficulty level. And then they get real appropriate type coaching as if a real estate coach is actually paying attention to them. It's a fantastic tool. Okay.
Yeah, right now it is focused on more like top of funnel leads, online leads, things like that. And it is buying in that question about whether it's compensation or even just, I heard I have to sign something. But it's also now getting where we're with near rollouts where we're also flexing, right? So ALM, things like that, where now it can even be more segmented, not just converting or setting appointments, but discussing ALM, etc. So it's really dialed into where the agent can do it on their time frame.
And the great part is, like, you can build it in, and we're doing this now. We'll send out a type, like a form, and it sends out to the team. The team will have to call in, and we'll reinforce, like, because after 3 months, we'll reinforce, are they still doing good at this? Like, you can have that reinforcement training at scale, whether you're 5 agents, 10 agents, 100, doesn't matter. We can go grade them and ensure that their skill set has maintained and they're being able to handle these conversations meaningfully. Super powerful. So the other part where I'm a huge fan of is role play is great. It's awesome. But how are we doing in a real life interaction? How are we doing on the actual phone call? With our flexing, we'll listen to a phone call every single day and we'll make sure an agent's doing it. But there is not enough time in the day for us to listen to every single phone call on the initial stages. But most importantly, how are the follow-ups? Because you're not listening to those most of the time. And if you are, you know how much time that it takes. And if you tried to hire somebody, it's like, it's not scalable. We can't hire enough people to listen to enough calls that is going to be able to make meaningful progress. So the part I'm going to share my screen with now is my next favorite feature. Can you still see the screen?
Yeah, we got you. It's got your notes on top, but I got that. It might be the wrong one.
Oh, hold on. That's not it. Stop. Share.
So what happens when you have 17 monitors, Colton?
I know it's fun for like a second.
There we go.
Now it's just a pain in the ass. So what objections are people getting hit with? And also like what the objections were 6 months ago, I don't care about today. Like what I want to focus on is we know what just changed. What I want to focus on is what's happening now. Like what's happened within the last month, what's happened within the last week. And most importantly, so what are the objections that we need to be training on? And you can scroll down and you can see what are the objections that people are actually getting hit with. And now you can go down individually by each agent and you can compare them with your team's average. And you can identify very quickly by the shade of green or the shade of red, where are they doing well? Where are they doing weak? And I'll talk about this in a little detail, but we can talk about total of calls graded. It'll talk about the average grade of the score. We want to be able to get agents to a 4 and above at minimum, so we can immediately identify who do we need to impress. What percentage of these people, what percentage of these people right here on this are asking the questions that we expect to be asked on the phone calls? And we can go down. So she's doing fantastic. 41% of the questions that we want to be asked are being asked. So she's doing good. This one right here isn't. This one here, what percentage of the time are they actually asking for the appointment? This data hasn't filled in yet, which is why they're all red. But which one of these, like for the appointment ads, on the appointments, what percentage of the phone calls and the conversations that your agents are having, what percentage of them are asking for the appointment on every single call? 60% is fantastic. 60% is a very good ask rate. Our goal, since we've gotten access to this data, is to make sure that we can get the team average up to 50. And here's a really interesting thing that we found is in grading, I think you guys graded 50,000 phone calls or something along those lines. And the one thing that they identified as they put an intentional effort to teaching their agents to ask for the appointment more often was if an agent had 100 conversations and the agent, they had 100 conversations and they asked for the appointment 10% of the time. They asked 10 times out of those 100 conversations for the appointment. If they had an acceptance rate of 10%, that means they had 100 conversations. They asked for it only 10% of the time, and only 10% of the invites that they give, only 10% accept, which means out of those 100 conversations, 1 appointment is set. But what they found is if they can get that same agent to ask 100% of the time, the acceptance rate does not change much. It's going to fluctuate a tiny bit, but it doesn't really change. So meaning that same exact agent who's having 100 conversations, and if you guys have ever listened to me talk or present on this, I do not need an agent who has to have 100 conversations to close 1 deal to have 200 to close 2. I need to help that agent get better results and better ROI out of the 100 conversations that they already had. I don't got to give them more. I need them to do better with the opportunities that they have. Now, what that means is that same agent who went from 10 to 100, now they've asked 100 of the times, and now they've secured 10 appointments instead of 1 with the same 100 conversations because the ask to acceptance rate doesn't change. So we got to be able to identify on the conversations that we're having, are you asking for the damn appointment? And there was an agent that I had who we've got a girl, she's been with us for about 6 months. She's already closed 8 deals and she's listed 3. She's an absolute rock star. And an agent came in and had a very honest conversation with me and said, hey, I know it's not you guys. I know it's not the leads. She's got the same leads. She's going to the same trainings. We're calling together. We're doing the same things. But he's like, clearly this is a me thing. And the happiest day of my life, and I promise you, none of this is an exaggeration, was when I got to open up his dashboard and I got to see he asked for the appointment 3% of the time. And then I got to show him the agent who he was comparing himself to. And I got to see that she asked for the appointment 63% of the time. So brother, the same exact conversations you guys are having, she's asking for it 63% of the time. You're only asking 3% of the time. Ask and you shall receive. Don't ask, don't get. It's that simple. And now we can finally, and you should have seen his eyes light up. And we were able to take that same exact agent, and it's not nearly high enough yet, but we're going to get there. Baby steps, slow progress. But now we've been able to take that person from 3 to now they're at 15%. And it's like just with that simple, tiny little adjustment, more of the conversations that we're having turn into appointments, which, by the way, without fixing anything else in the process, naturally, more appointments will be met. And then organically, more are going to be signed. And organically, more are going to be pended. And organically, more are going to be closed because he has a standard conversion rate on each of those other metrics. That's if nothing else improved, his business will change because we've been able to show him you're just not asking for the appointment.
And you don't have to go listen to the call. I think the light bulb part as a team leader, as a sales manager there, is now to click of a button because you've got that graph. You might have somebody making the calls, doing the work, but if they're not asking the right questions, then it's not resulting in appointments. But yet you have to go listen to all these calls. And now the AI, going back to what this is listening and identifying, saying, hey, a bunch of calls were made by this person, all this, but look at this metric that's in red. They're not asking for the appointment. No wonder the other ones are. And now you can just drill down into it, not have to listen to the calls. And like you said, just share with that agent on the one-on-one. Here they are. Like we just need to change the one metric. It's just the ask, right? Or whatever that one metric is.
And we talk about this all the time. And it's like, you can ask my team and you guys here, I'm a broken record. I say the same shit over and over and over. I'm not saying a whole lot of new things. And by the way, I don't need to, and I'm never going to, because what works in the process is, yeah, the words that we use, those do change a little bit, but the best practice is asking for the appointment and how you do the tie down. And when you send somebody properties, don't just say, hey, take a look and let me know if you'd like to see anything. It's, hey, I'm going to go, I shortlisted a couple properties. They have availability to take a look at it this weekend. Would you be available between 1 and 4 to take a look? Like, that's a best practice. Not all agents follow it. However, we can now identify, are they asking for the damn appointment? And the part where we can find out if they're doing it effectively is in the acceptance ratio. Because now I know if an agent's being able to tell a good story. And it's like, there's a type of agent who's like, hey, do you want to go look at some houses this weekend? That is asking. You're asking for an appointment. Versus the agent who goes, hey, I know we were looking for I found the house that had the 4th bedroom you were looking for. It has the pool that you said you wanted. It's got the upgraded kitchen and the open kitchen that you said your wife needed. It's got everything that you said you needed. I talked to the seller. They have time to show it to us later today at 5, or they can show it to us anytime this weekend between 1 and 4. What would work best for you? It's like both asks for the appointment, but you're going to be able to identify who's telling a good story by what percentage of the people asked versus what percentage of the people accepted. Because now we can go focus on the skill set and being a good storyteller and being able to connect somebody with the value of meeting. It's like, that's people for buyer consultations. I want to know how successfully an agent is being able to secure buyer consultations because, hey, has anybody, and this will work, and it's a good one. And frankly, it's better than what most are going to do. Hey, has anybody sat you down to take the time to show you what it takes to be a successful buyer or seller in this market? Like, yeah, that ask will work, and you're going to have an acceptance ratio on it. Versus that person who told me that there's no inventory. I use the fact that we have a home matchmaker service who will identify and create inventory for them that without that effort otherwise won't exist. And it's like, are we using the particular pain point that we use and the solution to be the bridge that's going to get them to accept the invite? And it's like, this data finally is giving me what I wanted, because previously when I had CISO, and I love CISO, I'm not bashing on him, but there was a lot of missing components. There was a lot of guesswork. I could find the kink, but I couldn't actually identify what it was that was causing it. And it would take a lot more time and a lot more guesswork to where now I can finally go in there. And I'm going to show you guys a bunch of really cool stuff in a minute of how effectively you can do this, but we can identify immediately where they're struggling. Do you have anything before I move on from that?
No, you got so much stuff to show there. I think it's great. I think that the key is from a sales management team lead is just how much time this saves, because it scrubs it, it grabs it. This is automatically being pulled from follow-up boss. So there's nothing to do. It's just once it's turned on, it's literally either whether they're calling the AI coach or it's grading their existing calls that are in there. There's nothing to do. It's all graded and put into that sheet for you. It's
by far for us the most important part, because not to mention the follow-ups, and then I'll move on. Oh, you can't see my screen now, huh? Here,
nope.
This part here, you can also go identify, and you can even click into it and find out where, but you can go in and you can find out the objections that they successfully handled. This agent, we really got to go work with on objection handling. We've got a bunch that haven't been graded yet.
So like a quick example, like that 3 for Joanne, for example, up at the top, is that little pink box towards the top there.
Oh,
like you can drill it like you're meeting with Joanne, right? It's like, okay, let me click on these. You can pull up these 3 leads. So it just we can't train it all today, but it allows you to go in and pull all of those and just then listen to it. What happened or what's the coach? It's in a different screen, but we'll come
Yep.
back and show you all this or get deeper into the training, but it allows you to drill into these one by one to listen to the calls, break down why was it scored down below, etc.
This is another good one. Shut up. Like this one right here. 83% of the time, the agent's talking. 83% of the time, the agent is talking. Our goal is to get our team average below 50%. Right now, the team average is at 56. And where you guys will hear, like if you ever role play with an agent in real life, you'll give them a script. Like if somebody says, I'm putting my plans on hold. Hey, yeah, so, and you'll listen to them. It's like, hey, what has you putting your plans on hold? And then we train them. Pause, shut up, don't say another word, make them respond first. But if you listen to agents, they'll be like, hey, what has you putting your plans on hold? Is it the market or, oh, is it because of interest rate? And they'll just start filling dead space. And it's like, you'll see, hey guys, you say what it is you gotta say, ask a question and then pause. Don't fill in and give them the answers. Don't continue rolling on to the next part of your script or your pivots or your talking points, however it is that you train your agents. Like just be comfortable in silence. Because I promise you, the people on the other end are thinking. Give them a minute to think. Give them a minute to respond. Because when they speak, you get to hear the tone of their voice. You can discern how serious they are. You can discern how fearful they are. You can discern how motivated they are. But if you're talking the entire time, you're never going to uncover it. So since getting this data every single Monday, we know what our target numbers are for fill rate and appointment ask rate. And we know what our numbers are for the agent talk time. And we're trying to get it to at least 50%. For follow-ups identified, are they asking for the follow-up? Like, are they trying to do that on the phone call? It's handling it for us. The objection handling, where are agents struggling? By the way, this agent immediately is going to go get sent the AI call coach so they can start going through the repetitions and handling objection, which, by the way, takes no time of mine. It takes no time of my director of sales. It doesn't take any time of the mentors. And PS, this agent is going to be a lot more comfortable doing it because he doesn't have one of us who he has to face in real life listening to the phone call. I can go find out what's happening, but he's talking to an AI voice. So he's comfortable doing it. And I can force him to go through the repetitions so that he can get the practice. And I can pause and turn off the hose until I can get this up to an acceptable ratio. Like I'm really proud of my team. 86.8% of the objections that we're hitting, we're handling, which that is phenomenal for me. But if you don't have access to that data, how are you going to help people and leads be progressed through your pipeline if you don't understand where they're getting stopped in their tracks? It's so valuable. Okay.
What's cool about this too, and I'm going to move on to your next one here is when you start is they can actually go and download the last X amount of months or stuff of your calls too, if you're with Follow Up Boss. So you're not starting from zero with this. You're like, okay, something's been broken. I'm not sure. They can actually go download a lot of your calls information and get you up and going with this right off the bat.
Yep. It is and you'll see there's going to be agents who don't like data. Your job is to make sure that you understand this. Your job is to make sure that you understand how to coach to this. Your job, and by the way, you can literally screenshot this whole thing, even if you didn't know, and even if Lopo didn't give you good training on it, which they absolutely do. You can screenshot it, tell them I'm a team leader, upload it to ChatGPT, tell them you're a team leader, identify each of these metrics, and then tell it like, how can I coach my agents to improve each of these metrics? There's no excuse anymore to be a bad team leader. There's no excuse anymore to be somebody who doesn't have the ability to help somebody do better. And it's like, again, we don't need to do more. We just got to do better with what we have. And you'll identify immediately where people are struggling. Just go look for the red. It's beautiful. Okay. So the next part that I'm going to go to is this is every single team lead's nightmare. I can promise you this is your pain point. It's mine. It's okay. So we've done a good job. We all know how to organize a pipeline. You have either A, B, C's, D's, you have hot, warms, cold. You have some form of organization within your CRM. What you don't have is enforcement of it. What you don't have is compliant of the process that has been proven to deliver great results. And the really fantastic part about this, oh, good, thank you. I know you're taking care of that. So the really fantastic part about this is for the first time, and we've been doing this, I hired 2 virtual assistants that would have to scrape through the CRM and take a mop into the CRM to try to clean up after the agents. And we would see, okay, this agent's an A, but we haven't talked to them in 6 months. Why the hell is it still an A? This one's a C, but we're talking to them every single day. And Jesus, they just went and looked at a property yesterday. Why are they still a C? So we had to manually go through one by one to identify who's getting the adequate pressure that they need. Because again, our job needs to be able to train an agent on who to pay attention to first. And you guys have heard me say it a billion times. If you've ever heard me do this, if you spend all your time trying to turn your shit into gold, in the process, your gold's going to turn into shit. And it's like, we need to be able to focus and put all of our bandwidth to the people who are deserving. We need to be able to put our bandwidth to the people who are active. And we need to get people out of certain categories when they're not deserving to be there. Like, I've always gotten excited about downgrading and upgrading because I'm finding my no's and I'm getting to my yeses. And that's something that doesn't bother me as a salesperson. So in here, and right now, if I'm not mistaken, Gabe, you can't customize these, but that's very, very shortly up the road.
Very
right?
short. Yeah, we put a bunch of rules in here, some of the most common that all the teams are doing, but we're getting to where this can be customized, right? Because your short term might be a little bit different than mine or whatever. But a lot of them, like, new leads, we know they need fairly immediate outreach. And somebody's like, oh no, the red or whatever. But this is what Maverik Explorer is, right? We need to inspect what we expect. So like right now, it's saying, great, appointments. You're in the green. You don't have any outstanding appointments that haven't been updated, which we're gonna get to if we have time later. It's one of our big things is updating appointments. So you're in the green, so it's great. But like if you do the drop down on the very next rule, it's not that it's doing bad, it's just saying, hey, we might have a few leads. There's only 6, right? But it's saying, hey, new leads that don't have immediate outreach down here in the red, do you want to take a peek at these? You just hit that manage button. And what's awesome is I can see who they are, who the agent is, what's the source, what's going on. And now I've got some all-in-one, which I think you're getting to, is if I wanted to nudge these agents saying, hey, these aren't meeting our follow-up, I can come do one at a time. I can select them all. And now I can just mass reassign or mass nudge these agents saying, hey, just can you reach out to these? Or, some teams like, hey, if you don't do certain follow-up, we've reassigned to Pawns or to Shark Tanks, whatever it is. Yeah. You now have these rules to identify it and mass nudge or mass reassign all at once without having to go lead by lead or pull up a smart list and then go lead by lead. It's just building in these rules. And yes, we're hoping very, very soon here to customize these your setup to your exact follow-up expectations.
So let me tell you too, because you'll figure out what works. Because when I first started this, I was ready to have a heart attack. Like, my head was going to explode off my body. I was shaking when I looked at the data in anger because you're looking at this, but over time you realize, okay, if I check this in the morning, there's going to be a lot more red. And when I check it towards the end of the day, it's going to be a lot more green. But the other part is you're going to find where your guys are not doing well. And I was able to identify really clearly, like, we've set very clear rules. We've set very clear best practices, and we've set what we haven't done is been able to enforce compliance. And I love when people get on stage and like, oh, I do this and I do this and I do this. You're going to find out real damn quick what you're not doing or what rules are not being followed and adhered to. Because real quickly, yeah, you can nudge an agent. So I can go in here and I can go nudge. I can go into here and say, okay, so new lead created, but no early outreach. And some of these, like when you go in, I just did one with an agent yesterday. And a bunch of them were an open house. They came into an open house. She didn't use our open house sign-in sheet, which PS should be done, but it's not. So we were able to identify immediately, why don't you use the Ylopo sign-in app so that we can immediately have the message done so that they can immediately send the text message out. You wouldn't have this problem. But she just uploaded them manually, which is okay, but it's not effective in any way, shape, or form. So then we were able to come in here and you can actually go through and yeah, you can nudge them. You can go in, I can say, okay, here's the rules that are broken. And I can go in and I can nudge and assign these leads. But the problem is we are sending a nudge and the nudges are supposed to be sent Monday. And we've set a rule for Friday to where if the lead does not get actioned, which means if they do not fall within compliance by Friday, that lead is going to be reassigned. What I found out was we weren't reassigning them. So what's the point of a nudge? It's an empty gesture. It's an empty threat. It's, hey, here's all the leads that we've given you. It's in A, it's an active, it's this. Here's the rules that are being broken. Go action this lead. And if you don't, we're going to pull it back. That step wasn't being taken. This is the only way I ever would have found that out. And by Friday, I can assure you, when I open these up, there's a lot of green because our ISA department is saying, hey guys, make sure you go clean this up. And guys, trust me, It's not as simple as sending a nudge Monday. Everybody does it by Friday. There's reinforcement, but she can finally say, guys, I'm going to be reassigning tomorrow. And I promise you, when I open this up tomorrow, there's going to be a lot more green than there is red, because people now know, because we've just pulled back last Friday. I believe we reassigned 180 leads all at once, and people woke up and people are like, what's this? And it's like, we talk about this every single day in our huddles. Gabe, you have something you're going to add?
Yeah, what I was going to say here too, and remember when you look at this, the red is like, it's not that it's lost yet, but as a sales manager, it's starting to say, hey, you need eyes on this to start nudging or moving it before you lose it. So to what you were saying, let's be honest, we all have holes in our business. And as we fix one thing, something else falls a bit behind. And this is just helping us keep eyes to stay ahead of it. So the red is really, you kind of almost want to see red. If you're not seeing any red, you're probably not generating more activity, more leads and all that, but it's helping you stay on top of it and move it accordingly or nudge accordingly on the most active. So that's always going to be something, but now you're not having to go manually dig for it and look for it. It's teed up for you.
And it's a part what I love is because before I knew a follow-up A needed to be touched, and we used to have 3, but frankly, we were reassigning leads too often. And it's like, so now it's actually the defaulted rule was you have to call them or have a text message sent within the system at least 2 times per week. And the great thing is this creates coaching opportunities, because people are like, well, I talked to them and, they're not going to be back in town until 2 weeks from now. So I don't have anything to say. It's like, of course you do. Hey, I just read this article from Keeping Current Matters. I just read this thing about interest rates. I just read this thing about this, or I just found this off-market opportunity, or, hey, I know you're not coming in town for a couple more weeks, but I wanted to keep you updated on what's happening in the market. Like, what do you mean there's nothing to talk to them about? You can update them. You can educate them. You can stay top of mind with them. You can do the things that you're supposed to do to keep proximity so that nobody else is going to swoop in, do a better job than you, and steal the client. So you end up getting that cancellation in 2 weeks. And it's like this opportunity gives those moments for coaching opportunities. So I'm going to move on because I want to make sure I can get you through my favorite features on this. Guys, there is still a whole list of things that we haven't even been able to tap into yet, because I promise you, when you find transparency into this, you're going to spend a whole lot of time fixing shit. But the good news is I know I'm fixing these things that are causing us to hemorrhage money. I know I'm fixing things that are going to keep performance with my portal leads up. I know I'm fixing things that is going to allow my agents to do better rather than them doing more. And it takes time and it doesn't turn immediately. But as long as we continue to ensure that these best practices are being adhered to, naturally, you start to see the agent who wasn't asking for appointments and couldn't go on any, all of a sudden they're getting appointments. And then all of a sudden they're getting buyer brokerage agreements. And then, because let's say they're doing a great job of asking and they're doing a great job of meeting people, but I'm not getting them to sign any buyer brokerage agreements, I know where the disconnect is. I know I got to go show them to follow our best practices for how you show a property and how you're going to secure it. And then I know buyer brokerage, guys, we're still having to do like the single property shows for the go-in shows with portal leads, and we're fine with that. We're going to date you before we ask you to marry us, but we have a best practice that we follow of how we're going to secure the buyer consultation after that appointment. So if I know they're not getting to the signed, I'm going to go train them up on how to conduct the buyer strategy session. I'm going to train them up on how to identify pain points so that they can then articulately explain how they're going to be the solution to that pain point. And then fast forward 90 days, all of a sudden that agent who wasn't setting appointments, now they're setting appointments. Now they're meeting with people. Now all of a sudden they're getting signs. And then we see how they're submitting on offers and it's a process. But it's process that delivers predictable results. And this is finally giving us transparency to figure out where can we help them do better, not more. So the last part here, not the last part, but one of the other key points, I don't got to spend a lot of time on this. It's super straightforward. When's the best time to call? Well, based on your team, based on your area. By the way, if you're in Florida, people don't like text messages are not nearly as effective because it's an older community and phone calls do a lot better. If you're in Manhattan, text messages, I promise you, will perform a lot better. If you're in LA, but you can go find out when I call, what time of the day do people answer the most? So your team has most conversations per call on average during on Monday, 10 to 11, with a conversation rate of 8.22%. Your team made the most number of calls during the Tuesday. Geez. Sunday. Sunday is when your team tends to have conversations that are above average. Shocker. people are home, people will answer more often. And then your team has the least amount of conversations Friday between 9 and 10. Your team made the least number of calls. Shocker, like this data right here. We make the least amount of calls on a Sunday, which, by the way, the best time to make a call and have the most conversations is on Sunday. By the way, I just had that aha for the very first time. So you have the data. You can go break it down by each day of the week so that if you have people calling on a Friday between 9 and 10 and you're making 100 phone calls, but only 1% answer, dude, they're talking to one person. Versus Sunday, if we can get 8%, that same exact 1 hour of investment of time can yield 8 conversations instead of 1. Like, it gives us the ability to make data-backed decisions that are going to allow their efforts to generate a higher return. Does anybody disagree that that's not a beneficial thing for us and for our businesses and for our team? Because you can show them when they're successful and you can show them when they're not, and you can finally motivate them to show up to the damn call nights that we all set up to try to get them to make calls during times that make sense, because people aren't taking your call when they're sitting at their office or in their cubicle while their boss is walking by, and between 9 and 10, when most of us have our calls blocked for making phone calls. It's like this data helps us prove the point that we have always been trying to drive home to our teams, but now we have data to back it because people believe what they see. They do not believe what they hear. Okay. Do you have anything you want to add on that part?
No, I think that was awesome. I love, I mean, it's just all about the data and not having to go digging for it. It's just having the data all in different either dashboards or different metrics. So we're all inspecting different things, whether it's, well, inspecting and doing. So you have the AI calling for role playing, which on that too, and I think I was on mute when I threw it in there, but I've never seen our team role play more because they're now not doing it in front of others, but it's getting done. So they're actually doing more, which is then starting to role play in front of the group, but they're practicing cutting their teeth where they're comfortable. But it's just, what metric do we need more calls? Is it what we're saying, or is it what we're not asking for? And now looking at insights based on all the data, when are we having the most success from day or time, etc.?
Yep, 100%. Now I'm going to go to the next part. Oh, and I think I touched on this. Yeah, I did. With the call nudging, you make sure somebody who's in the warms, the colds. I hope I articulated that enough. I kind of can't remember. But an A is going to be touched at least 2 times a week with phone call and with text message. B is going to be at least 2 times a month. The warms are going to be at least 1 time per month. We're making sure that adequate pressure is being placed on each of those different funnels to ensure no holes fall between the cracks. If you guys evaluate your numbers on what conversion happens in 0 to 3 months, what conversion happens 3 to 6 months, what conversion happens 6 months and after, over 52% of your lead conversion, if you do a really great job, will happen 6 months and later. But I can promise you, if you evaluate your team's numbers, you're seeing that your team gives up on them after like 30 days. And it's like, at least now we're enforcing that those leads are going to be nurtured in a way. And by the way, if they're not, I'm going to pull them back, give them to an ISA or give them to an agent. Or if you're somebody with a smaller team and you're still doing production, you take it back and you go feed your damn family with it. I'm tired of leads going to people who will not. I'm done throwing the ball to people who can't progress the thing down the field, period. You have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to throw the ball to somebody, and the team's responsibility is make sure we throw it to somebody who has the ability to progress it down the field and actually score. Because we know when the team wins, everybody wins. We can give more resources. And by the way, I'm done giving, it feels like we're taking a hammer to the agent that we're pausing and we're turning off the hose to, but it's a shield for everybody else. Because that's how they pay. I could go on about this forever, but it is literally the thing. If nothing else worked, this part of it, finally, we can make sure that our pipelines are getting adequate pressure. Okay. Now I'm going to get to which one do I want to do? I did the best time sales manager report.
So I think we had appointments on there. We were going to talk about the appointment review. I think you guys have started.
And I know that's your baby. Here, I'll let you go nuts.
You mind? I mean, I know you guys are using it as well, but I'll throw myself on the sword. Like, we were watching a lot of these metrics, and I'm never going to claim to be perfect. We always have areas to improve, but got our call rates up. I think what we were saying was better. And then started realizing, oh, you're in here, is that appointments, I need to start inspecting them. So Colton's pulled up just their appointments right now that they've set month to date. And what I love about this is talks about appointments. And as you're tracking them, you're going to see ups and downs. But right now he's looking at all appointments there in the middle of the screen. But what I noticed is there, we broke this down into different sections now. If you guys look right in this area, I can break down and inspect different areas. So I'm like, okay, which ones were held? This was great. They held, I can see the agent, I can see the lead as the blue hyperlink. When was it? The source, all that. But then here's where it got interesting and we were failing. I went to the next one, not held. And I was like, okay, well, why weren't they? And started looking in, and we're not gonna be able to go through all these, but I can click on the lead's name and see and find out, okay, did they show back up? Why wasn't it held? Have we rescheduled them? What's their current, what was the outcome, right? Not met, canceled, whatever it was. And then our biggest F up, I can't know if I can say this on your webinar, so I won't.
Please,
the no outcomes, the needs update, we were losing so much fucking money in this next section. And we had so many appointments that were not even getting updated in our follow-up boss. And I wasn't able to find them quickly and seeing what was going on. It's like, how have they had no outcome? These appointments that we set up, whether it was showings, listing appointments, consultations, but it saved me from having to go through follow boss one by one to find these. And it's great. We got to learn, we got to role play to learn what to say. Then we got to listen to our calls, make sure we're saying it. But we were getting to appointments, and we found this is a big gap in our business to really focus and drill into the appointments. Why aren't they moving forward, or at a minimum going back to an A, B, or C, like you were saying, Colton?
And not to mention, how many of these, and this is where I'll get so heated, and I know I'm running out of time, but like how many of these, so they canceled the appointment. Hey, so sorry, we couldn't make it. Okay, not a problem. Bye. Okay, well, what happened here? So we had a showing. They weren't met. So I'm going to click into them, which, by the way, it's going to open it up in Follow-Up Boss. And now I hope I don't get angry.
No, it's all about discovering, right? We all have areas.
Now I can go find out, oh my God, it's sitting in lead.
Yep.
So why is this thing sitting in lead? So now I can go, I'm going to do it. I won't have time. I'm going to come back to this. But I'm going to go make sure that that goes and gets actioned because, okay, the appointment got canceled. Discussion about the property, blah, blah, blah. Confirm. No attempt to reschedule. This was done on August 10th. It's August 22nd. Why have we not tried to reschedule the appointment? Why have we not sent them at any additional properties? I'm getting angry for real now.
Sorry, this is what happened to me, Colton. We worked on all the others, which was great. We got more appointments, but then we didn't, and I'll own it as a team lead. I wasn't inspecting the appointment section enough. There's lots of wins, right? You got a ton of appointments, but what about these, 15, 20 or whatever? If I could just increase those a little bit, that makes a big difference to our bottom line.
Guys, it's all like, I can't wait. And by the way, in the one-on-ones, and we'll get to this part next, so we can finish it off here. But now what percentage of these, and this is fun because when we're looking at this director of sales report, what do you guys call it? I call it my director of sales report.
Sales manager report, sales
manager report. So now we can go in here and I can go click on, okay, this agent within the last 8 months has been able to get 171 leads. She's been able to get, she's 116 of them were top of the funnel, leads unresponsive, outstanding appointments none. Because here's the good news. When they have an appointment, you schedule it in Follow-Up Boss. Agents are supposed to create an outcome. They will get a text message that says, hey, Gabe, because we know agents aren't going to do the things that agents don't do. Don't be mad when agents don't do the things that you know they're not going to do anyway. But then they get a text message and it goes, hey, Gabe, what happened with that appointment? Select 1 if you met them, 2 if they canceled, 3 if you rescheduled them.
Customize to your outcomes. Customize to your outcomes.
Yes. So whatever it is that you're doing, it sends them a text message that says, hey, and it's not mean, it's not aggressive, it's not you yelling at them. Hey, we need to update this lead. What happened? Click 1, click 2, click 3, click 4. It's beautiful because then we have the ability to then actually go track it. And then I can go see, okay, we got a lot of people canceling. So maybe we're setting appointments for people that we shouldn't be meeting, and go click into it. We can listen to their phone calls. You can go, it takes you right to Follow-Up Boss. There's no guesswork. But the best part is, let's say you get that agent in the one-on-one and like, man, you know what? My leads just suck. It's like, okay, cool. Let's go find out. So now you've got long-term nurtures. We can click here. We can choose sales funnel, appointments held, appointment held percentage, accepted. We can do stage breakdown by top of funnel leads. We can break them down by long-term nurtures. We can break them down by short-term nurtures. By the way, a lot of the times, the agents who have conversion that really, really sucks, their trash and rejected rate is through the roof. So I can go see your trash and rejected rate versus the team average, which we actually have a pretty low trash to conversion rate, because unless that person has they bought, or they filed a restraining order, keep working on them. Like, that's my rule. If there is an absolute reason that you have to trash them, they died, or they filed a restraining order, then you can trash them. But unless that happens, my rule is keep nurturing them, keep doing something. And if you don't want to, send it back to the ISA department so that they can. But now we can actually we can click into any of these.
See who they are. Yeah, the numbers of the leads. So you'll be able to drill right into them. And again, it's all about comparing to the team average to find out, is it one person, are they right in there, or what's going on? So you can see all this. And I'm going to go a tiny bit deeper on where Colton was talking about on that text, because again, back to the appointments is, I know you're on the road, especially if you're doing a lot of appointments and doing your job. So not only texting you asking the outcome, when you hit one, it updates the outcome in the appointment, in follow-up, boss saves it. Then you get another text. Perfect. It was a no-show, or it was a met. Would you like to update the stage? Currently is appointment set. Press 1 to move it to showing homes. Press 2 to signed agreement. Whatever your stages are, because I think a big part of it is, and also if we have busy agents, they're busy and they're out there, they're not sitting here. It's prompting them to update these. If they don't, it reminds them again. And then it can also be set up for those nudges and same reassignment. But now Colton has visibility, because we're focused on calls, we're focused on learning what to say, and now appointments. And are we moving? It's all about moving through the funnel. Everyone.
And I want to tell you why my ISA is so happy about this. She was the one that was being mean. She's so mean. She's so aggressive. Like, no, she's got to go update 400 of these. She's like, update this, update this, update this. What's going on with this? And she's having to be fast. The system's doing it. She doesn't have to do it. Her time can be spent doing the things that are going to generate more appointments, which is going to create more revenue. Now, the component to this that I want you to look at now is when I look at an agent, let's go see how they're performing. And by the way, this particular agent is really new, but are really performing. And I can go show you why.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, it becomes immediately apparent. The average call attempts versus the team average. 480 average call attempts, 101 average conversations in comparison to 20. Text attempts, 1,187. Email attempts, 612 in comparison to 166. Do you want to know why she's outperforming everybody? It's because she's outworking everybody. It's that simple. Like, you finally have the ability to go pinpoint exactly. And trust me, there are agents where I could click on here and it would be substantially worse. And it's like, hey, go do more output so that you can drive more input, period. Do the output, do the activities. But now I can actually see, are you the agent who's fearful of rejection, who's hiding behind text message and phone call, meaning you're losing the most effective form of communication next to face-to-face? You're telling me now that no wonder you're not meeting anybody. You're not talking to anybody. And then you can actually go in and I can click on these 480 conversations. And I can go look, by the way, and this is a fun thing that actually Gabe showed me. You can go see those with the most conversations lead to the best outcome, which of course is closed transactions. And now we can go click in. And if you want to come to the bottom, click on Chris, find out what the reason is. But it's finally creating transparency to where you're having a one-on-one. You can have a conversation with an agent. We can identify if they're getting beat out. We can identify if they're not asking for appointments. We can identify through the AI call grading coach how they're performing on objections and if they need improvement. We're identifying how many contact attempts per lead. We're identifying when somebody doesn't show up, are you being intentional with how you set up an appointment? Which, by the way, my rule is don't ever say, hey, there's a couple properties I want you to take a look at. Here's a link. Let me know if there's anything you want to see. It's, hey, Gabe, I just shortlisted 3 properties for you. I paid special close attention to 123 Elm Street. I've talked to the seller. They're available to show us the house anytime today after 5 or anytime this weekend between 1 and 4. What time would work best for you? Or, hey, I'd love to be able to sit down and discuss with you the changes about the NAR settlement. I can meet you virtually or in person. What would work better for you? It's like we can go back. We can identify the people they're not setting appointments with. We can click into it, identify if they're doing it the right way. And if they're not, we can coach them so that they can do better, or you can remove them if you can't coach them up.
Yeah. What I love too about, sorry, there's yeah. There. What I love too about what you're showing, and I think you have a link because you were able to negotiate a trial for people that want to test this out. I think you have that there. If not, I can get it. But what I also loved what you were doing when you were showing up the team average versus the agent. I mean, Lindsay was crushing it, but like you said, we all have the agents that are not. So when you're having these 101s, what I like about it is I'm not out comparing them to my standards. I'm just comparing them to what the other agents who are producing are doing. So it makes it a lot easier when we have those 101s and stuff. It's not holding you to my standards. You said you want to do X production and do all this work. Here are agents that are doing that. Look what their averages are in these metrics versus yours. It's now not me. It's just them holding themselves accountable to other agents' metrics that are performing, and they're now able to see it where they couldn't before.
And guys, just real quick, because Lauren Roslin, I put in a link and they're like, what's Lopo paying you to do this? Nothing. They have a referral code. If you do sign up through the referral code, they will give you a free trial of the system. I don't give a shit. Don't put me as a referral code. So call them and put whoever I genuinely do not care. If you're part of our group, you know, I just like to genuinely do things that are going to help you guys do better, things that are helping us in our business, showing you what works. This works really damn well. I don't do it for the referral. I don't do it because I'm being paid. This finally has given us the ability to run a business where I now have the ability to do and to uphold my obligation to help people do better instead of doing more. We finally do it. Can you please share the link?
I think you shared it just to the panelists. You do it to everyone.
Shit, my bad.
That's all right. Good
Here's
catch. Yeah. And what I love about this too, and Colton and I, we've known each other for a long time and get to speak at things. Like we were even playing around this earlier because we're both kind of redoing our, our sales management of doing it. We're both all of a sudden looking at things earlier as we're doing this. And I also love that aspect of it when we're sharing it and a lot of us use the same tools that work. We also help find better ways to use it that better our business.
The part that and I'll shut up and you guys can go. This is in the dial-up era of this, like AI and the way that AI and Lopo is all communicating with each other, the automations that are happening, the quality of these things that are being like every week we're adding new things. I'm so excited for it because we finally have the ability to manage and maintain and make sure that we're increasing conversion. You increase your conversion by 0.25%, your revenue will go up by 25%. You cannot predictably and intentionally increase conversion without having transparency into this data and how we can help people do better with more. AI is making it so blatantly obvious to where we are morons and we don't deserve the teams that we lead if we can't help people do better with the opportunities that we're giving them, because hopefully you actually give a shit. And you haven't just built your team because you're trying to get success from them. Hopefully you're giving people what they need to actually succeed. And this data is the first time that I've ever felt that I really have 100% ability to do so and to deliver on it.
It's just getting better. I'm so excited.
All right, guys. Thank you. If you do want to sign up for the 90-day trial, or if you just want to schedule a demo, feel free to click that link there. If you don't want to use me, I don't give a shit. Put anybody you guys want as a referral, but it just is so worth the time for you guys to get transparency into your pipelines. Gabe, Kiwi, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And everybody, crush it for the rest of the week.
Thanks, man.